You're not going to stop the mind from running. It's going to do its thing. You're not going to stop technology from advancing. It's going to do its thing. What you can do is develop your capacity to be the observer to the experience. And what that brings you is a great amount of power and joy. I love that we're doing this call tonight because I did want to talk about the topic of mystical wisdom, mystical knowledge. And I think one of the points that I've really been coming across lately is that we're living in such an overly scientific, rational, technology driven world that it almost feels that at times the ancient wisdom truths that we know that we resonate with when we hear them about how to live a great life just has been completely dissipated or dissolved or just kind of left outside of the conversation. Even in my industry of personal development and growth, there's such a impetus and a need for change and transformation to happen through very quick ways, right? Like we need to have things happen really, really quick. And we need things to happen now. And the thing is that the levels of anxiety, stress, mental disease, mental illness are so much higher than they've ever been on planet Earth. And we have to look at the collective trajectory and wonder whether or not this is really helping us as individuals. Okay. So regardless of what your opinion is on that, I actually want us to remember that the focus and the choice comes back to us, how we live our lives. We can't stop the flow of technology. You're not going to be able to stop Chat GPT and AI and crypto and Web3 or whatever is going to emerge. No one even knows what's emerging right now in tech. But we do have to remember something, that everyone's got one of those little phones, and on that phone, you have every contact you ever had, and you can go to any web page and get any piece of information you'll ever want in 1 second on this little black device. And if somebody would have told you that 25, 30 years ago, they thought you're crazy. This is magic. This is absolute magic that we're holding in our hands. Technology can be wonderful. And I think one of the things that I want to be doing is learning how to embrace technology. You can embrace it so that way we can make choices in our own lives about how we want to use it. The whole point of doing that is to remember that there are ways of living, there are blueprints, there are truths, ways of acting, ways of behaving, ways of thinking that have always worked for human beings. And the way that they've worked is that they've helped human beings have high levels of fulfillment and joy in their lives. And isn't that what we're freaking wanting? Like at the end of the day, are we just not wanting to live a happy life? Whatever that may mean for us individually. To go even a step further, are we not trying to live a life where our talents and our gifts are actually being used and explored and developed so that way we can feel successful and we can feel of use? There's a prayer I used to do years back where I would lie down after 30 minutes of sitting in silence and just pray to my version of God to use me, pray to spirit to use me, just come into my body and just use me. Use it all up, use up all my energy, whatever you need to do, use it, and I'll just surrender and follow along. I think that's the definition of prayer. But I think a lot of this has been drowned out, and I think we're consumed by a lot of distraction. It's even hard to be here in a call without moving around, focusing on something else, right? It's hard to really focus. In pure meditation practice, the brain waves start to go down. We're able to start to concentrate and actually focus on one thing. One of the practices that I focused on for years was staring at a candle or staring at an object and really trying to have your attention just focus on a particular object. And when you first start to do this, you realize how hard this is. You observe your mind going off in 1,000 different directions. It's maddening. It just goes on and on and on. And then you develop the capacity to see that engine, to see that thing just moving, going along. And it's in that observation that you become the witness to it. So you're not it, you become the witness to it, which in my opinion is the basis of all spiritual practice. You're not going to stop the mind from running. It's going to do its thing. You're not going to stop technology from advancing. It's going to do its thing. What you can do is develop your capacity to be the observer to the experience. And what that brings you is a great amount of power and joy. It gives you the ability to choose your unfolding in a way that's relevant to how you want to live your life. And who doesn't want that? There's nothing wrong with that. I had a conversation today with somebody who was challenging me on the idea that it sounds so selfish to want to live this extraordinary life. It sounds so selfish to want to have greatness and excellence and impact. And I said, I used to think that, but then I shifted my tune and I started to realize that me living to my greatness, me being fully unleashed, living my purpose is the greatest gift that I can give my family, my friends, my community, and the world at large. Me being a symbol and inspiration of doing great things will help others do that. So if you have any of that belief, any of that guilt, any of that questioning around why, it shouldn't be that hard. We should just surrender and let the universal energy flow. Yes, there's that surrender piece, but there's also that intentionality piece. And when you play the game hand in hand, where you're using both, you create a beautiful life. So I want to talk about mystical wisdom, mystical knowledge, and tapping into it. Because let's just talk truth. You all know to some extent, you would be here if you didn't otherwise believe that there is some form of information, there is some form of flow or energy that is behind the thinking mechanism, behind the thinking mind, behind our thoughts. You might call it the universe, you might call it God, whatever you might call it, creative power. There is something that's running, and it created this, it created all of us, it created this world. It's kind of running. And it operates in certain ways. And when we learn those ways, we get into flow with how nature works, with how the universe works. And that's when we feel that energy being used by spirit, being used by that energy. And that's the beautiful intention. But it's work for us in this modern world to get back there. It's work for us to actually start to say, yes, I want to learn that, because we're fighting against the stream. The stream is really geared towards making us forget. TV, everything on the internet, everything that you're doing pretty much, the yearning for money, the yearning for XYZ, relationships, sex, whatever the yearnings are, the external world is providing us with a lot of enticement towards those things. So we're distracted because it's showing us things that we want. And then we're clicking on them. We're going here. We're spending all our hours and days searching for things that aren't really bringing us the true joy. So you're fighting against the stream because you're not living on some mountaintop, and neither am I. Like, we've chosen to be in this world, right? None of us here are monks living on a mountaintop somewhere, although I've spent time on a mountaintop meditating. But I'm here to be in the world active. And so you're fighting against the stream. Okay, everything's going to make you forget. That's why you're coming here, by the way. You're coming here to remember this. But the intention is to tap it. The intention is to find it. The intention is to literally do everything you can to find that creative force, that creative impulse, that flow, and surrender. And you know what I'm talking about. When you slow yourself down, even if it comes from a moment in time where you're being beaten down and you're stressed, or you're consciously working on this all the time, when you slow yourself down, some inspiration happens, some intuition happens, some idea emerges that's, oh, that's a good idea if I do that. And then you're off on the races doing that thing. That's the information that's given to us in that state. And it boggles my mind that more people just aren't looking at it this way, that we're so focused on technology and going here, going there, going there. We're so focused on our smaller issues that we've gotten away from the bigger issues. Has it ever crossed your mind, or you wondered, like, why is Jesus Christ and the Buddha, like, why are these the most famous people of all time? They lived like 2,000 years ago, 3,000 years ago, the Buddha, because that information is timeless. It stays as a story, as a narrative within human beings, because it's what resonates most deeply. What I'm calling you to do is to pay attention, practice, be curious, ask yourselves, what do I need to do right now to tap into my truth? What do I need to do to get out of this thing that's running like crazy and just tap in to my intuition, the knowing that exists? What do I need to do? How do I surrender to that intention? And I would go so far to say that if you just ask that question every day, if you wake up in the morning with that level of submission, that level of inquiry, and then you let it go, it's going to have an effect on your life. Those moments of inspiration are going to happen. Those moments of intuition are going to suddenly appear. You're going to get benefit from this. The hardest thing about talking about something like this is that in my world of teaching personal development and personal growth concepts, if you look at what's out there, everyone's chasing the same thing, the quick win. Here's how you make $10,000 in a week. Here's how you find your soulmate in 2 weeks. Here's how you lose 10 pounds and get ripped in 6 weeks. So everything is telling you to go super fast, and it's grabbing our attention. I'm not just looking for the quick fix solution all the time. I'm willing to play the long game, and I'm willing to trust that that flow is worth it, that that's where all my fulfillment is. Otherwise, you're missing out. You're missing out on the stuff that's always worked. You're missing out 2,000, 3,000 years of legacy. Crazy to me. All the blueprints and solutions about how to live an extraordinary life are right here. It's really not brain surgery. I just think that we've been running around it for so long.